Evolution Talk presents an interview with Charles Darwin, starring Rick Coste, Amy Perkins, and featuring Ozzie Air as Charles Darwin.
Yeah, that should just about do it. Ow! Damn, that hurt. Okay, tomorrow's the day. Wait, I should probably make sure this thing even works. Nobody is going to believe this. I should set it now so I can just hop in first thing in the morning. Alright, so October 19th, 1869. Alright, that's as good a day as any, I suppose. The GPS better work. Alright, I need to get some sleep. Okay. Alright, I'm up. Alright, let's get going. I think I've got everything. Clothes look good, I've got my notebook, got my recorder. There's nothing out of place that I can see. Well, there's no time like the present. 1869. Here I come. Oh, great. Didn't expect this. Okay, this is it. It's cold.
Yes?
Mr. Darwin?
But of course. Whose door did you think you were knocking on? And do come in out of that rain.
Yes, of course. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Well, you know who I am. To whom do I owe the pleasure?
Oh, right. I'm Rick Coste. I'm writing an article for the Kentish Gazette, and I would like to know if...
And why aren't you wearing a coat?
Well,
No matter. In with you. You're here now as it is. Emma and the children will be back soon. We have the house to ourselves. Let's at least sit down. You say you're from the Gazette?
Yes, I am.
How is Mr. Simmons?
I'm fine. He's doing fine.
Send him my regards, will you? Make yourself comfortable. Brandy?
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
All right. So, what is it you would like to know?
Well, okay. As you are well aware, your book has caused quite a stir these past 10 years or so, and I thought it might be worth restating for our readers exactly what it all means. Simplified somewhat to, help them understand. Straight from the horse's mouth.
Straight from the what?
Oh, never mind. It's an old saying.
I can't say I've ever heard it. Odd talk these days. I can't keep up with it. So, to be sure I understand your request, you would like for me to better explain, better than I have done already, my life's work.
Sort of. A lot of people don't get it, or maybe they don't want to get it.
Very well then. Blue frogs.
Blue frogs?
Yes. If finches won't do the trick, let us use frogs. You can write that down. Blue frogs. I see you're confused. And that's why you're here, right? To clear up the confusion. So, let me help you. So, let us imagine that we have a population of green frogs, and along comes a predator who has a taste for green frogs. What might happen to that population?
They'll be eaten, right?
Yes, they will be eaten. Now, let us imagine that one day a frog is born, who is slightly different from its brothers and sisters. This frog's epidermis has a blue shade to it. What will happen now?
I'm going to say it will escape being eaten.
Perhaps. But it is more likely that our little predator, the one who enjoys the taste of green frogs, will pass it by at first. It might eventually eat the blue frog, but chances are that it will go after the green frogs first. It knows what they taste like. It's been eating them for years. So our little blue frog might just avoid being eaten long enough to reproduce. Perhaps more than once. Perhaps more often than its green neighbours.
So there will be more blue frogs.
Correct. As the green frogs are typically the first to be consumed, they will have less chance to reproduce. Our blue frogs, on the other hand, enjoy a slightly longer reproductive life. In time, they will make up a greater percentage of the population.
And one day, they'll make up the entire population and it will all be blue frogs.
Perhaps. Are you warm?
I am, thank you.
Good. Your lack of coat in this weather confounds me. Now, where was I?
Blue frogs.
Right, blue frogs. Let's now imagine that some of our little green frogs, the original frogs, were to move on to greener pastures. Literally greener pastures, where they blend right in. And let's also say that some blue frogs travel to these pastures with them. And there are hawks there. Hawks whose favourite menu item is frogs. What will happen to our little group of refugees?
They'll be eaten by the hawks.
Yes, but only the blue frogs will be. Why? Because they're blue, and these are green pastures.
And the green frogs are practically invisible.
Exactly.
So the green frogs have the advantage here, as opposed to the population of blue frogs in the first location, right?
That's correct. But now there's another problem. There's another predator here in the grass who eats everything that moves as long as it's not bigger than it is.
And you're going to tell me that our little green frogs are no better than this predator. What sort of animal is the predator anyway?
The sort of animal doesn't matter. For our purposes, we'll refer to it as the pasture predator. This pasture predator is in its glory at first. All of these little green frogs running around, when it can find them, are the perfect midday snack. Until
what?
Something marvellous happens. Not all of a sudden, but gradually. Some of these little green frogs aren't so little. They're a little bigger than the others. When our pasture predator comes along, it passes them by at first to go after the smaller ones.
It's weeding them out, isn't it? The smaller ones. And the ones with the genes that cause them to be larger, those genes are passed on until they are all large.
The what? What did you call them?
The smaller ones?
No, after that. Genes.
Oh, did I say genes? Well, it's an expression, I guess. It means property or something. I'm not quite sure.
Your manner of speech is most strange. I trust your writing exceeds your oratory.
If you only knew.
Knew what?
Nothing, sorry. So, was I right that eventually all of the green frogs will be larger than the pasture predator?
Most definitely. Now, I do feel the need to point out to your readers that this may never happen. Our green frogs may never evolve into larger frogs. It may be that the predator wipes them all out. This has happened many times throughout history. Many astounding and unseen creatures have perished because the adaptation that might have guaranteed their survival never occurred.
So, in this scenario, that adaptation happened and we now have two sets of frogs, right? The large green pasture frogs and the small blue frogs in the original environment.
Yes, and thus we have...
two species.
I believe you will do your readers justice.
What about your readers? Do you feel your book has done justice, to your views and your theory?
My book? Ah, yes. If only I had a chance to go back in time.
Would you not have written it?
Oh, yes, but I would have done a much better job. It's why I'm constantly revising it. In fact, I just recently completed the 5th edition and have already started making notes for the 6th. On top of all this, I'm working on its successor, in which I hope to clear up a lot of questions that have been raised over the years concerning our place in nature.
Ah, the descent of man.
How could you know that?
Oh, sorry, was that it? It was just a guess.
Yes, well, it should raise a few eyebrows.
And how do you feel about that? It's been 10 years since The Origin of Species was published, and the waves that it made have only gotten bigger. They've capsized many other beliefs about the world and about creation.
How do I feel? Tired. Very tired. And sometimes anxious. But my work compels me to continue.
Do you think you'll ever stop?
Stop? Perhaps never. There's too much to say, too much we don't yet know. The mechanism for passing on new modifications is still to be discovered.
Not everyone has accepted this either, right? Even people like Richard Owen.
Owen is a fool, and his best work, at least that work which was his, and not what he claimed was his, is behind him. His problem with my theory is that he didn't come to it first. After it was published, it was too late. It says something that the man has not a single follower or pupil to his name.
And there are many like Huxley and Gray who you can count among your supporters.
Yes, and for that I'm very grateful. My one hope and desire is that my ideas should long outlive me.
If those ideas are fit, they will survive.
Very well said.
Can I ask you something else?
Ask away.
What of God, of a creator? What do you say to those who hold on to the idea that God is responsible for it all and not nature?
The Creator. If one were to ask Spinoza, he would tell you that the Creator and nature are one and the same. Or perhaps, as I once thought, the Creator set it all in motion and is eagerly checking off the results in his journal, as would anyone with a grand experiment. I prefer to remain silent on the idea.
Would that be agnostic?
You've heard that term, have you? That's Huxley's word for it.
Would you say it describes your state of mind on the subject?
I would say that Emma and the children are home.
Well, I must be going.
Don't be silly. We have plenty of seats at our table. You're most welcome to stay for dinner.
Really, I should go. I'd like to collect my thoughts and start the article.
A writer's work is never done, is that it?
I hope you understand.
All too well. All too well.
Charles?
Yes, my dear. We're just wrapping up. We have a visitor. A young man from the Gazette. Mr. Rick Coste.
I am pleased to meet you, Mr. Coste.
Thank you, Mrs. Darwin.
Please call me Emma. Charles, did you ask Mr. Coste if he would do us the pleasure of joining us for dinner?
I most certainly did. He politely declined. The boy has work to do.
Would you reconsider?
I wish I could. I really must be going.
In this weather?
Emma, dear, he's a big boy. He knows what is best.
Well then, it was a pleasure making your acquaintance, Mr. Coste. Perhaps next time.
Thank you. I would like that very much. She's a wonderful woman.
Yes. Yes, she is. She's home to me. Well, let's see you off and get you a coat.
Really, no. I'm all set.
Don't be preposterous. You'll catch your death. You want to have children, don't you? Try this on. It's a little big, but it'll do. I trust you have enough for your article.
I do, yes. Perhaps we can do this again another time?
A sequel? Of course. Our door is always open.
Thank you, Mr. Darwin.
Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
Is the young man off?
He is, my dear.
You said he is from the Gazette?
Yes. Odd young fellow, but pleasant.
Come, Charles. Keep me company while I prepare dinner.
I hope you enjoyed listening to an interview with Charles Darwin. The show featured Amy Perkins as Emma Darwin and Ozzie Air in the role of Charles Darwin. Most of the music was composed by two incredibly gifted musicians, Stephen O'Brien and Brett McCoy. You've heard some of their work on past episodes. I've always been a fan of the old-time radio shows, and today's show is an homage to that. If you want to learn more about the episode, head on over to evolutiontalk.com/the interview. And next week, we return to our regular programming schedule and format. Until then, please take care of yourself.
Evolution Talk is a Rick Coste production.